all those different things are important, but I think everyone's going to be a little bit different.
Today I wanted to talk about skating mechanics. I think I'm going to title it like how to fix skating mechanics, but this isn't really going to be exactly how to fix it because there's a lot of like moving parts to this. So um, I'm going to try to get as specific as I can because that is actually going to give people like practical things that they can look at. Um, but for me, the thing that's made me kind of think of this topic again is I've been doing a lot of teaching on the treadmill again, and it's like a very good tool for isolating poor mechanics at any age, any level, whatever. You can really like break down exactly where people are missing. So I've been looking at that a lot, and there's just like some consistent things that I see at certain age groups that um, I'm not going to say they're necessarily easy to address, but things that maybe you aren't aware of if you're trying to improve skating. Because everybody, there's like the slogan things people say, like bend your knees, and most people know about like long strides now, I guess. But there's certain things that people just throw out there and say as ways to fix it. But I find it doesn't really translate, and people, because kids, especially kids, they don't know what it means when you're saying these things. So actually being able to explain some of this stuff might be helpful or help you if there's just like something weird you're looking at your kid and there's just something off about the skating, you can't put your finger on it. Maybe like these are some things you can look at. Um, but I want to be careful about saying fixing the skating mechanics because there's like a ton of stuff that goes into fixing, and then like what does fixing even mean, and what is a good skater, and all those kinds of questions. So before we kind of get into like those fundamental things, I want you to kind of revisit your your thought process because I agree with you when you talk about this topic. Is just like you don't know how much uh, of kids skating mechanics you can actually fix. Like how much can you actually change a skater, and kind of where do you draw the line between you can fix the mechanics versus they can like fix the mechanics to be like an ideal skater versus you could just like help them get better with what they already have, and maybe just like the skating mechanics topic in general because it's a very emphasized thing in like hockey land. So just what are your like kind of opening thoughts just on that in general?
Well, I'll go like just on my experience of training hockey players, and there was one point where I was probably um, everything was packaged in the same way, right? You have to get low, get your ass down, bend your not your knees, but have that hip hinge, get down low, extend the stride, get the chest up. Our arms should swing a certain way, more or less, um, for your stride length, and then your quick feet comes off the balls of your feet and all that stuff. And then what I and that's mostly true. But then that's where you have to, as a coach, as a trainer, as even if you're a player, you have to kind of think outside the box sometimes because not everybody's the same. So, for example, there was kids that I trained like that were just beautiful skaters. Okay, that's the way you do it. Well, there wasn't a whole lot to fix. Why did they get that way? I don't know. Are they just good athletes, or they just get on the skates? Some bodies just move really nice when they're on the ice, right? But then, and then your recovery stride. Where should your feet come in? Then you're watching a guy skate, and people go, "Wow!" A Taylor Hall, for example, who I have been on the ice with. Ryan Moore was another kid that I looked. They had that really wide wheelbase. So if you look at in Guelph, Carabella and Nemo have that. Right, they're low to the ice, and it seems like they're really wide wheelbase. Well, that kind of goes against the recovery stride coming back in the middle, or at least appears like that. And they're not. I'm not going to say Carabel is not tall, but he's not really tall. He's like 6 feet or a little bit under, and so is Nemo. So is that a function of like how they get their wide wheelbase? So is Taylor's like 6'1", 6, and so is Moorsey that I was talking about. They had that wide wheelbase. So it was like, oh man, that wide wheelbase. So do you teach that? So I'm thinking Moorsey, for example, he was very bow-legged.
So you're saying like when you say the wide, it's like the distance between their
Yeah,
feet was wide.
yeah, wider.
Right?
So it
They're
looked
wider
like they
set.
had that real
Yeah.
stability, right? So it's like, is that something that you teach, or is that something that you just have by default? And I think that's a default thing, right? So, and then okay, so you look at that. So that changes. That has to change the theory of everyone has to look the same way when they skate, more or less, right? The perfect skater shouldn't just look like that because there's differences. So then you look at someone like Jack Eichel. Eric Lindros was, in my opinion, was another one that they looked like they were almost straight up, and there was almost no knee bend. So where are they generating their power from, or are they bending? You just don't notice it. They seem taller when they're on the ice. Then you look at another kid that has that goes against everything that you would ever teach. Potsy, so Matt Poitras, has a pretty evident forward lean, so it would immediately indicate you're going to be off balance a little bit. You're not maximizing your hip hinge. You're not maximizing your stride. You see a lot of those guys, but they get around the ice fine. So my general statement on skating is to put a one thing fits everybody. I don't think that's a thing. So I think there's still general principles, right? If you finish your stride on your heel, well, you're missing your whole foot,
Yeah.
right? So you have to finish on your toe. You have to get the knee drive. You have to, get to center as much as you can so you can have a long stride. I think your balance is important. So having your upper body not over your toes too much, your arm swing, all those different things are important. But I think everyone's going to be a little bit different. So that's one thing.